All right, so let's make sure I have my questions. Wow. So, hold the line, community and gamers. We are here with the fine folks from Muse Games to talk about their game Guns of Icarus. So, what can you tell us about Muse Games just to start off and give yourselves a round of introductions for our panel?
Sure. Yeah, we are a indie studio in New York City. We are at the southern tip of New York City. If you walk out of our building, look to the left, there'd be tourists grabbing the balls of the Wall Street Bowl, whatever that bowl is. It's pretty hilarious. We're here because it's actually pretty cheap to be here because all the bankers, after the recession stuff, like they all ran out of money and they left. So our building couldn't find tenants and we're here. We started in like late '09, 2010, basically. And the first game that we did for that we sold was a game called Guns of Icarus, the original Guns of Icarus. It was a pretty interesting ride. I mean, it was a pretty fun ride. We were on Steam, and I guess we're lucky enough to be on Steam for a little game like that. And we also happened to launch a game the same day that the Steam Mac store hit. So kind of rode the wave a little bit, and the game did well. Our second game is called Creevers. It's a totally different direction. It's a platformer set in a magical forest featuring tiny, whimsical, little cute creatures called Creevers. And now we are doing Guns of Icarus Online pretty much all the time. And we're about to transition to adventure mode as well. And we can talk more, obviously, about that. But that's kind of what occupies our time the whole time. All
So, how did you guys meet up as a team and form and stuff?
Oh, good question. So this me and this other dude, Brian, we met on Craigslist, I think. Originally we were actually doing this virtual world web content integration type of project startup. That didn't really go anywhere. I mean, at the time, it was I think it was '07. It was a pretty forward, which it's a hot area to be in. So we were, we were just really fascinated by that tech and just by that whole experience and whatnot. So we were in it, but it was kind of a tough going, and it was hard to find a way to add meaningful content to the whole experience. So we jumped out. Essentially that project kind of was floundering and failed, and so we jumped out and started making games. Because we were using Unity all along, so we started to make games in Unity. And by that time, Brian brought in his classmate, and Emily brought in her friend, whatever. So we just kind of got started from there.
So, what were some of the motivations behind the decisions to make Guns of Icarus Online?
Um, what people said about the original Guns. I think part of it is that when we made the original Guns of Icarus, it was a small game. It was our first game, and we didn't really have much of anything in terms of experience or money or anything. So we made it sort of with a bigger vision in mind, but we just weren't able to realize that. So it turned out to be kind of a really small single player experience with the ships on rail. And we took a lot of feedback from our small but really passionate player base. And we also had a lot of vision or ideas about what we wanted to do, but just couldn't realize. And after the original Guns, while we're working on Creevers, we are also brewing, Guns of Icarus Online. And so I think what we're doing now is just kind of a lot of realizing the original vision, but also listening to a lot of the player feedback at the time.
So, what games inspired Guns of Icarus and Guns of Icarus Online as far as the steampunk aesthetics of the feel of the game? The airships and just the way the battles worked in of themselves.
That's a good question. With steampunk aesthetics, we actually drew a lot of references from, I would say, like movies, animation, And well, yeah, and also like games. So like it's more of a varied. I mean, basically we looked at more steampunk genre, steampunk theme and style, instead of necessarily looking at um, games.
Yeah, I mean, back in '09 when we first released the original Guns of Icarus, there weren't. I mean, even now, there are not too many games that are really big on the steampunk stuff. Like just the top of my head, like Dishonored is the only one that's sort of like steampunk. Maybe like the new BioShock, but they're already like skewing off to their own imaginations of what steampunk is. And then from the very beginning, we were always steampunk, dieselpunk type feel. And yeah, just it was something that caught the attention of our art directors. And because there were no games that were using this style, we started looking at outside materials, books, movies, the steampunk conventions and people who do cosplay and stuff like that. It's like, well, there's a community who likes this stuff, but why isn't it in a game yet? And I guess now there are a lot more that are popping up. Every day I see more and more games. Oh, this is steampunk. That's steampunk. This is sort of steampunk, dieselpunk. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and also Emily is a steampunk fan, so that kind of guided a lot of early decisions for us.
Guns of Icarus Online was released with a skirmish mode. However, you recently did a Kickstarter for what you're calling adventure mode to add player factions, mission-based objectives for players to complete in a persistent type world. What are all the features that you are planning for adventure mode?
A lot.
From reading your Kickstarter stretch goals, they are a lot.
Yeah, I mean the ultimate vision for adventure mode is, we've set out. So skirmish mode takes place in this very unique world. You play in all these different maps, like in Battle of the Dunes in the desert. It's like, well, why are all these what are these huge pieces of wreckage? You go to another map, it's like, oh, what was this city here before? Why is it abandoned? Why is it dilapidated? It's the one thing that players have been clamoring for, and something that we haven't answered yet. And adventure mode is that answer. We want to build a world. We want you to be able to explore it, but most importantly, is to influence how that world is going to mature. So what that means is you're still going to be on your airship, completing missions for towns, but you'll be affecting how they survive, how they align with factions and politics. But most importantly, you're also playing with your friends too. And that's the kind of vision that we have for adventure mode and the direction that we're taking it.
Where did I put that? Speaking of the Kickstarter, your most recent one, you guys managed to get enough funding for the core goals, but not so much for the stretch goals. How do you see implementing those stretch goals into adventure mode and stuff? What would be the process into getting that? Is it going to be through patches, or slowly as you guys get to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now our work is a lot of the adventure mode work has been underway. So we're actually working on a lot of them. Obviously, we're still doing a lot of work with skirmish as well. So I mean, we're essentially doing things in parallel, and I think we'll just keep doing it. And everything that we make from the game are essentially putting back into making adventure mode right now, anyways. And it would definitely would have been awesome to get more help from Kickstarter, but without it, we'll probably take more time, and we might need to go out and try to find some more funding potentially. But essentially, I think so far we've been doing everything it takes to get to this point. So, I'm pretty confident and not that worried that we'll eventually get there. And another thing that we're considering is essentially releasing the PvP and the co-op part of what we want to do in adventure mode out earlier. It's a smaller DLC. Partly is to help, with us, funding the game or whatever. But I think there are a lot of Kickstarter backers who wanted to see that. I mean, so it's also a way to honor the Kickstarter's pledge. So anyways, we're looking at that as well. But bottom line is that, yeah, I mean, I think everything that we make from the game, everything that we put into the game, we're essentially going to our adventure mode. So far we're on track, and we're pretty confident that we'll get there.
Speaking of skirmish modes and adventure mode, is there going to be any kind of overlap between the two, or are they going to be pretty much their own separate entities?
Well, there will be an overlap as far as let's say, the type of ships, skills, and weapons. But, because skirmish mode is competitive PvP, there's a balance concern with that. So when you do go into adventure mode, you'll have more variety of weapons and ships, for example, things that are more skewed, things that may be considered overpowered in traditional competitive PvP. But it doesn't mean that there won't be any overlap. There will be some. And we're always working towards a way. So, adventure mode is all about the world and how the world is changing. We still, we always we have a small player base, so we have to leverage that as much as we can. So by splitting up skirmish mode players and adventure mode players isn't the smartest thing to do for us. We're always looking for ways to bring those two together. So I don't know, maybe through skirmish mode there's a special mode where you can influence something in adventure mode. That's just something off the top of my head right now. But it's these kinds of things that I think we have a lot of room to experiment in, and also maintain our player base into a very tight and cohesive community.
I use the Guns of Icarus Online for on my Linux end of things. How it has cross-platform development been using Unity as an engine?
With right now, cross-platform for us is PC, Mac, and Linux. PC, Mac are, I would say, pretty seamless because we have with Unity we can build in Mac, and I think Mac is something that we have taken into consideration from the very beginning. Linux, on the other hand, it's really after Unity 4. I would say, like, for the most part, it took us some work, but it wasn't terrible work. I think what really kind of got us was that with Unity 4.1, there are also some bugs that Unity introduced that essentially is a price to pay when we upgrade, when we release Linux, is that the Linux build itself is fine. We obviously, once we release, there are different compatibility issues that we have to support and whatnot. But it was more like the byproduct of making a deal with the Unity 4 devil that that kind of ended up costing us a lot of hardship, because that was really the challenge. It's more like upgrading Unity 4, getting the Linux build out, but dealing with Unity 4's or 4.1's like issues and working through that.
The thing with Linux is that OS X is completely closed, so we know exactly what kinds of machines people are using when they play the game on OS X. It's relatively easy for us to debug stuff. Windows, you have a little bit more freedom. People install all kinds of different software, so you'll get some strange issues from Windows users. Linux, on the other hand, it's like, well, there are so many different kinds of Linux OSs. And officially, we only support Ubuntu. So, that's the level of difficulty we're dealing with cross-platform, is that, like, we have a product, but can we really ensure the same experience on the user's end based on their setup at home? So that's the real difficulty. Sure, we'll always have problems with our middleware and stuff like that, but we work through that and we get it released. So it's always, the support stuff is the toughest, I think.
Just to add to Linux, by the way, is that the reason why we only support that is because we basically support everything that Steam supports, and nothing beyond that.
Yeah.
So,
which makes a lot of sense, because being a Nix user, having 3 different audio managers and 17 different drivers, and
The good thing about Linux users is that if you went down the Linux route, then more likely than not you'll be able to debug your own issues. It's like my mouse isn't working. It's like, well, I'll just reinstall another driver, see if that works. And Linux users take care of themselves, which is really nice at the same time.
less support headaches.
Right.
But no, as I will say, as a Linux user, I do appreciate the cross-platform because that means I can play in all of the OSs I play in.
Yep.
So, crap. Where did I see it? One of the things that have been mentioned is the challenges of building a challenging AI that doesn't actually make the player rage quit. What are some of the techniques for world building that like a small team like you guys are doing to overcome those particular challenges in AI?
Yeah. So. We look towards a lot of games and see how other games have done this. By far, the best AI we've seen is Valve's Left 4 Dead. That is always an excellent game to play. You never feel like you're just getting beat down by the AI. It's still even fun when you're playing against 4 zombie players, human players. It's still an incredible experience. And they do some really, really smart things on how to measure player tension. It's not necessarily difficulty, it's just how freaked out you are, how much you're panicking. If you're shooting a lot of bullets, not hitting too many people, you're just wasting clips, well then maybe you're freaking out a little bit and they'll tone the difficulty down just a smidgen. Maybe they'll throw you an extra health pack where usually a health pack isn't there. But if you're getting 100% accuracy, headshotting all the zombies, well, that means something too. We're going to throw tank at you or something like that. And those are the kinds of cues that we like to use as well when we build out our AI director. Taking a lot of inspiration from really dynamic AI experiences that really take a look at the data that players are generating as they play. And this is what we call player tension. And it's maintaining that tension level and not just keeping it level, but also spiking the tension and letting it fall as well is also very exciting. So for example, maybe you let the player go into a lull and it's sort of, oh man, this is really boring. Where are the zombies? The next room you go into, suddenly there's tons of people there waiting for you. And that really ramps things up. And a lot of different types of media do this. I mean, you look at some of the best TV shows or novels, it's like, it's always a roller coaster of emotions, and that's the kind of thing that we're aiming for.
With Guns of Icarus being a team-based game, are there... How do I word that? Since it focuses so heavily on team-based cooperation, what mechanics are in place to help players form new crews and conquer the skies, as it were?
Well, I mean, as of right now, we are one of the features that we're working on for our next sprint, which is say early July, is crew formation. Well, essentially crew formation and party both, which will allow players to find people to crew with and kind of pre-form their crew before they enter a match or even a match lobby, and we'll basically be doing more. I mean, another feature that we will be adding is clan tagging and stuff like that, so you can more readily identify yourself with will form a clan or a team. So I think it's really through those features, and I think we'll be more positively reinforcing just good collaborative play. And I think another issue is really with teaching players how to play. I mean, because we feel like there's definitely learning going on and figuring out what kind of weapons, what kind of ammo is effective against what ship component and whatnot, and what you expected on ship. But I think once you learn that aspect of the game, you can actually be more readily jumping into say a pub match and crewing with anybody, as long as you communicate and generally know what guns to use and whatnot. So I think part of it is also education, which we'll do more of, like with more scripted tutorial, with more guides and stuff like that. So I think for us it's more of a multi aspect issue. So essentially we'll look at different aspects of this and try to tackle it all at once.
And Matt, you being a player, becoming a community manager and whatnot, you guys have engaged really directly with your community, even off your own sites, directly responding to comments and concerns on websites like Rock Paper Shotgun, as an example. How has that direct approach affected building around with the community? Yeah.
Well, I mean, so it creates really passionate players because they know if they say, I don't like this or we want this, that we're actually going to listen and, take it into consideration. Our current competitive scene is all made by players. Like we, put it on our site that it's happening, but they do all the legwork of recruiting the teams, getting them to play against each other, streaming it, and it really creates just a passion for it. Like we have one team, the Ducks, and it's 70 members, and they play almost near constantly. There's almost no time where you don't have a Duck online.
Some companies don't take that kind of direct approach. Why did you guys decide to build that loyal fan base, or is there more to it?
I mean, I can sort of understand why some of the larger companies don't take a direct approach to their players. One is that there are a lot of them, and it's just the signal to noise ratio is really difficult to filter out for like AAA titles. It's like everyone has an opinion about Call of Duty. It's like, well, how are designers supposed to talk to the masses like that? It's almost impossible. For us, we have a small team. And we're not limited by any like marketing walls or bureaucracy or any of that sort of stuff. So I think it's an advantage for us just to be able to talk to people casually about what we're working on. We're always very transparent, and extending that. It's like our player base again is fairly small, but they're very dedicated too. So the signal to noise ratio for us is actually very good. It's like I'm in charge of doing the balance for skirmish mode, and I manage a couple of threads related to balance concerns and stuff like that. And I read that pretty much every day. I may not respond all the time, but I know what's going on. I do take things under consideration. I read every comment, and there are interesting things that crop out from that have made it into the balance patches. So I mean, we're making a game for the community, for our players. It's competitive. They're playing together against each other. They are the lifebread for us. So it only makes sense for us to actually commune with them, break bread with them. In fact, yeah, like some of our top players at PAX, we met them, we had dinner with them, we had a good discussion about things that were OP. So it's definitely a refreshing take for us just to be able to, again, talk casually with the people who play our game. They spend a lot of time in our work, so we'd like to do the same and honor that.
Yeah, and I also feel that when people spend their hard-earned money and to buy our game, not anything else, they actually spend the money to buy our game. I think that's, for us, is a huge honor, for anybody really. So I think spending time and hanging out with the players and just really playing with the players, communicating with them, interact with them is the least we can do.
Something I've found is that player loyalty, it builds a loyalty not to the brand but to what you guys do as a company, and I really think a lot more developers should really take a more active approach than some do currently, unfortunately.
I mean, I think part of it is like, well, some people have, let's say they get the game and for whatever problem, either they have some, weird antivirus or whatever, and they can't get the game crashes and whatnot. But I mean, regardless of what happens, you get the game and the game doesn't work, for whatever reason, yeah, I mean, you're gonna be pissed. So I think it's just really understanding that and just be like, okay, wow, like what we can actually help and address that, like, and help the players get through that, fast and at least as fast as we can and solve the players' problem. So I think for us, it's like it's just really looking at this as a problem service and a problem to solve and whatnot, and to help regardless of the players pissed off. And they have every right to be pissed off if that's the case. So I think it's more understanding that and just trying to help our players instead of like, oh my god, someone's yelling at me, oh my god, I'm gonna go into my closet and hide now.
Which I feel that's probably some players who pay for games that don't work usually tend to feel like some people do. No comment other than that. So lastly, what can people be expecting from Muse Games and Guns of Icarus and any other projects you guys have coming down the line?
Oh, sure. So right now we are still doing a lot of work with skirmish with the current game, and we are doing work for adventure mode as well. So in the next few months, definitely expect to see more of adventure mode content, especially in PvE and co-op. We have been just throwing some ideas around and prototyping and concepting some other small games, a couple other small games, and obviously we don't have time to work on them right now. But as we get further and things sort of become more stable, like I don't know. I mean, we actually have a little bit more time, and we can also like bring those ideas back and play with them some more. So yeah, hopefully there'll be more adventure mode stuff for people to try, but some more in the way of like small game concepts and whatnot. So we'll see.
Yeah, basically, as far as like stuff in the immediate future, more ways to blow up other ships and cooler places where ships can blow up.
Absolutely.
So that's in the immediate future, like as in next week.
Yes, nice. More ships to blow up. And more new places. Awesome. So I want to thank you guys for joining us. Much appreciated. And I will definitely be looking forward to playing some more Guns of Icarus.
Awesome.
It's...
Yeah, just to let you know, every